What's the atheist metaphysical basis for anything? The Precept Rot channel asks. Oh, God. There is no atheist worldview. Stop saying atheism has a worldview, you idiot. Stop it. All right, anyways, time to talk about my atheist worldview that I don't have. All right. The label skeptic is what I prefer, but I'm also an atheist. I'm also agnostic, kind of atheist, but not fully. I guess I'm an agnostic atheist. These labels are meaningful only in that we ascribe meaning to them. And natural language says screw you to trying to be locked down. So the word atheist pretty much means not believing in God at this point. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that I think that most atheists think this. But theists are still trying to catch up to that. They're still trying to insist that atheism means there's no God because that's easier to deal with in apologetics than the more murky non-belief that atheism is today. And I do say murky, it's not clear cut. There is no prevailing atheist view of reality. The only thing that you have to do to qualify as an atheist is not believe in God. You don't have to say there's no God, although you could. So you could be agnostic and an atheist. You could be atheist and you could be skeptic. Or you could just be one of those or all of those or any combination thereof. A skeptic also has different meanings. To me, it means to question things, to hold things in question until I have sufficient proof or evidence or test or an argument that's sound for it. And to just allow that thing to remain unknown until I find evidence or reason to think it is. But the apologist can't really deal with that sort of gray area. It's too difficult. So black and white is easier, right? Now, I go pretty hard on apologists, and you might have noticed that. I don't hold back, and then later I sometimes regret not being so nice, but, you know, it is what it is. We're all human, and, we all have different various temperaments and whatnot, and I know I could do better, and it's like, well, I want to do better. And I've tried to think and write about my worldview many, many times, but it's just too complicated. There's too many things like, what do I think about this or that thing that's a law, or what's justice, or what is my ethics? Now that I thought I had pretty nailed down pretty well, which is kind of a universalistic idea of utilitarianism. It's like utilitarianism light, like do the best for the most amount of things that are alive and do the least harm, do the most good to the most living creatures and the least harm to the least amount of living creatures as possible. Or you could even just say humans, and you'd still find yourself trying to protect other species, because to keep humans around, we need other creatures, at least to eat, if nothing else. But what am I actually doing that does any of that? Nothing. I'm not donating to charities or volunteering or anything like that. So it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm all for it, and sit there and be like, yeah, what am I doing? Not a darn thing. I make YouTube videos. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And hey, it's like, well, how else can you contribute to society? That's a good question. I don't know. This is one thing I do that I know I can do, and what else is there? I don't know. And some people can do lots of other things, and hopefully they will. But who am I to tell them to do those things if I myself am not doing them? And so I go, well, whatever I can say is good or bad or otherwise, who cares? Yeah, like, yeah, you're not doing it, It's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. you know. Um, so I care about things, I think about things, but that changes as I gain new information and new ideas come my way, and I try to challenge what I believe and try to understand things better. And so, of course, uh, change my opinion based on information that I have that I didn't have before. Um, Explaining to people that when I analyze an argument for logical fallacies, my goal is not to prove God isn't, and I focus on God, explain why in a moment, but to just point out the logical fallacies. That's it. The argument sucks. Go fix your argument. And if they don't or they won't, then there's no reason to believe that argument. But that doesn't mean that the conclusion is one that we can say is false. It just means the arguments suck. And why focus on God? Well, because a lot of my past, I focused on God but as a believer. And when I look at the arguments I made, they were pretty bad. In fact, they're just as bad or worse than many of the apologists making arguments today are. And I got into apologetics. I was super into it, and I was learning the arguments, and I thought, oh, these are great. But then I learned informal logic, and it was like, oh, no, these arguments are not good. They suck. And I can't believe I didn't see it before. Because when you don't know logic, of course it's gonna seem like, oh yeah, that's fine. It's a great argument. Yeah, but how do you know? Well, do you know logic? No. Okay, well then how do you know the argument's a good argument? Because I like it. Now that's not a very good reason. That's not reasoning. That's not logical. The why are we here question, I think, is meaningless. There is no why other than subjective. We have to invent the why for ourselves. And for some people, that might be scary or something, I guess. I don't know. I just go, well, that's the way it is. I mean, that's just how it is. You can't change it. Being upset at it doesn't affect it. It doesn't care that you don't like it. The system, maybe you can make a dent in it. Maybe you can change some aspect of it. Who knows how long that change will stay or, remain in place is another, whole another question. And even if you get some sort of position of power where you can change things on a wider scale, whatever that might look like, again, that doesn't mean that it's always going to stay that way. So what are you going to do? Well, you try your best. You do the best that you know how. Well, why? In the end, you just die. So what's the point? Well, the point is because you're alive now. This is enjoyable. You enjoy doing whatever or hopefully. Now, sometimes we don't enjoy it. Okay, let's try to find something and do it and see if we do enjoy it. And if we don't, fine. But maybe it was worth doing anyways. Even things that we don't know what the point is at the time, it's like there's value to various activities of learning, for example. Even if you wind up never, quote unquote, using it, it's like, well, you don't know that you're not going to use it until you know it. And when I learned about critical analysis, in college. That helped me to think in different ways that I hadn't thought of before and see things in a different way I hadn't seen before. And so concepts like that, you never know what you're going to come across until you learn, until you explore that avenue. I'm not worried about being wrong. That's another thing that I sometimes see with some theistic apologetic types, maybe, where they really don't want to be wrong. It's like, oh man, I'm right about this because this thing, it says this thing in the book, and I can't challenge the book. I'm not allowed to ask questions. I'm like, no, well, now you've got to ask questions, and you should be asking questions, because why wouldn't you know everything there is to know about this book? If you're telling me that this is the most important book in the world, but you don't know what it says, my conclusion is you don't really care about the book. You don't really believe it's the most important book because you're not treating it that way. You're not giving it the attention that you ought to be if you really thought it was the most important thing in the world. And at least attempt to memorize it or learn about its history or something. But no, I'm good. I know enough. It's fine. I know it's true. Well, I believe it's true. I don't need to do that. Well, then you don't really believe it's the most important book in the world. And people have said, no, I do. And I'm like, okay, well, but you don't know anything about it. So I don't get that. I don't understand that. I don't have the answers. I think that might be scary for some people too, is that understanding of reality via the best tool we have, science, doesn't give us every single answer that we want. But that's how it is. We know a limited amount of things, and there's more questions than there will be answers. There will always be questions, but not necessarily answers. That's how it is. Just that's how reality is. Why can't it be this way? I don't know. That's not how it is, though. Can we make it that way? No, I don't know. Is it worth trying to? Depends, how much time and energy you want to put into it. Is the battle worth fighting? And some people think different battles are worth fighting and some don't. It's like, are we going to join this or that protest? Is it going to matter? Don't know. Is it really going to affect things? Maybe, maybe not. The way that we look at the world, is that influenced primarily by our belief or lack thereof in God? And that seems to be a central thesis that some apologists have. And I thought that at one point, but I don't anymore. I think I'm able to explore reality, and if there's a God to find, I will find it. But so far, I haven't. And that's why I analyze these arguments, because that's my way to look for the argument that's sound, that I could then say, okay, here's God. I found the sound argument for God. Now I found God. What does that mean? I don't know. It depends what God is at that point. But I don't have that argument. And so it would be better, of course, if I had empirical proof or repeatable test, and then I wouldn't even need an argument. But apparently, these things aren't for God. There is no empiricism for it. There is no test for it. And asking for those things apparently, supposedly, is the wrong question to ask because they presuppose what God is. They say God is not X, Y, and Z. Well, how do you know that? They don't. They assume that. They believe that. But there's no way to demonstrate that. And even the arguments they attempt to do, well, it's like, that argument sucked too. So I don't even know what God is. It's a word, it's an idea, it's a concept. It means different things to different people. But it doesn't have to be the foundation of anything else. The foundation of morals is humanity, other people. I decided to do this. I decided this was wrong. That's it. Just me. Nobody else. Nobody had to tell me to do it or not do it. I decided I wanted to do this thing that I see as good. I decided to not do this thing that I see as wrong. And maybe it's a little bit of an inconvenience or a hassle, but I'm going to do it. And one of those things is my duty to the truth, which is extremely difficult at times. There's many times it's so much easier to just lie. And I don't see admitting truth as lies. I'm not going to, if somebody says, what's your social security number? I'm going to say, well, why do you need to know that? But that's not a lie. I'm not going to make up a number to give them, but I'm not going to tell them the number unless there's some really good reason for it. So I'm going to need that reason, and they better figure that out. So that's one idea, but it has been a thing where it's not always easy to maintain that standard. And, sometimes you just forget that you said that you were going to do something, for example. And then it seems like you weren't being truthful, even though you were. It's like, I intended to do that. I just didn't remember to do it. What are you going to do then? It's like, I suck, but, yeah. So none of these ideas are necessarily shared by any other individual atheist, because every atheist is a little bit different. Some are really super mega into social issues or politics or movies or video games or whatever. And, cool. Some are really deep into philosophy. Some are really deep into history or, all sorts of interests that people have. I'm like, well, this is my one thing, is this logic thing, and that's it. That's my thing. That's mine. But I can do that wrong too. And I guess it's time to brush up on my logic again. I'm getting rusty, So I see these things on YouTube, like, atheism worldview and what's the grounding of logic. And I'm like, we've answered this question. There is no atheist worldview. The grounding of logic is reality itself. We've answered that question. And I said, I don't even need to answer the question. I don't need to ground logic at all. Because it works whether it's grounded or not. So it doesn't need a justification. It just works. So why? Because it does. It just does. The 1 + 1 is 2. Why? That's just how it works. A is A. Why? That's just how it works. What grounds that? Nothing. It just is. How does it work? Don't know. It just does. I don't need to explain it. It's not my burden. But of course, the people that say that are always precepts. And the precept stuff. It's I thought it would be dead, but it's still around, and there's still people doing it. And there's so many problems with that. That could be its own mussing, I suppose. I suppose I could edit the name of this video to be mussing about atheism worldviews or something. I don't know. I'll leave it. I like the title. Whatever. What else can I really say about my ideas about the world? I guess, like, like, how did it begin, or how did the universe be? It's like, I don't know. I'll just go with whatever science says, and it seems like even scientists aren't really sure. Popular seems to be Big Bang cosmology, but how popular, I don't know. And there's other types of cosmology, and I don't know which one's correct, and I'll be fine with it being overturned. That's fine. But there is something, things I can't stand, like pet peeves, I suppose you could say, or whatever, is like anti-intellectualism. Like, I'm going to deliberately, water down my intellect for people. Like Dr. Paywall, One More Name did. He's like, he's watering down his stuff so that he doesn't have to do that much work. No. If you can do better, do better. Do the best you can. And so there's that. And I suppose I say this for myself too. It's like, I want to do better, and I know I could. So it's like, well, I need to take my own advice. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that's it. I don't know. Oh, where the universe, or what happened? Why are we here? Well, we're here because nature. What does it mean to exist? I am existing. I don't know. And then, well, what happens when you die? Well, you're toast, I guess. I don't know. Will we know? I have no idea. I have no idea. And there's nothing I can do about it. So whatever I hope for, whatever I believe in, doesn't change reality even a little. I mean, it'd be great to be like, oh, here's a universe that I've always wanted to be in, and now I'm in that universe. Cool. As long as there's a way out, like, because eventually I might get bored, So is that even possible? I don't think so, but who knows? There's Robin. What else? I guess really I can't really think much else, and I suppose that's why it's so hard to really come up with my worldview, because it's like, unless I'm going like topic by topic, it's hard to say what I view this, that, or the other as. Like give me a topic, I'll be like, okay, well, here's what I think about that, right? That sort of thing. But even that's like, well, that's subject to change too. And I was thinking about Objective Ethics' arguments that he had on his channel, and I analyzed those, and I, told him what needs fixing and whatever. And I thought, what about abortion? How are we going to objectify this? Because that's doing harm to a possible person. I mean, you're ending the possible person's existence. Is that harm, though? I mean, they're not a person yet, so they're just like cells, but you're preventing them from ever being a person. And it's like, yeah, that's weird. What are we going to do with that one? Good luck, because I don't know how you would figure out what would be quote unquote right way to handle that. And maybe we just don't have the technology. What if, this wild scenario, if we had absolute control over our own biology, self-imposed, where we could decide to have a kid or not in our brain. We can turn it on or off. And so you only are able to have a kid if both people have it on and they know it's on. It's like a for sure thing. And maybe there's some external signal that lets people know that you're in the on mode rather than off mode. It's like, hey, do I turn you on? Has a whole new meaning, right? And so if both people, let's say they had, so some sort of light, I don't know why I'm visualizing it that way, but whatever, it's green light. And if it's not green, then you're not good to go. It's not red otherwise. It's just not a light. It's either it's on or it's not. So if it's a green light on your head or whatever, it's like, oh, that means you're wanting to have a kid. Okay, cool. Hey, can you turn that off before we meow meow? Oh no, we don't. No, okay, then I'm done. Well, mine's off, so whatever. I'm fine. But maybe you choose not to even be with him just in case something goes wrong. Although the technology is so good that it's like never going to happen. But then in that case, if both people's lights were green and they went ahead and they did the deed, and we as a society were like, well, they both knew what was going to happen, they have to have that kid then. Would that be fair? I don't know. We don't have that technology. So you can speak hypotheticals, but you're not there. So you don't know what it would really be like. And does that, it's like, well, you have full body autonomy. What if you took it further? He said, look, not only this, but we also have technology where we could remove the fertilized egg safely. No damage, no harm, no pain. We could keep it somewhere else. You're not financially responsible in any way, shape, or form to this life. They won't trace back to you. They'll never find you, whatever. But we're going to keep it alive because we value life more than anything else or something like that. And the person's like, no, it's mine. I don't want it to be a thing. That cell, part of it was mine. And it's like, well, then does the guy have any say? Because it's not, we've got artificial wombs now and all this technology. And it's like, it doesn't make a great sci-fi story, but that's all it is a story because it's not real. So I don't know what it would really look like. But I figure, well, this is the society we have with the technology we have. And abortion is a tool that seems necessary for society to function for now, because we don't have this sci-fi technology. And maybe one day we will, and then things will be very different, but we're not there. So, and then I say, well, if you're going to be against abortion, then you need to be for technology that would enable another path out of this biological conundrum that people find themselves in sometimes. And I do think that some people think abortion is just for birth control. It's like, no, there's other reasons, for it. But I think they feel that people should take responsibility for their actions. And I'm like, maybe this is their way of taking responsibility, that this is the best way that they can take responsibility is by saying no, because it would so drastically change their life that, they know that they wouldn't be a good parent at this time, but later they might be. but not right now, for all sorts of reasons. So it's one of these, well, okay, there's my view on that one simple topic. And that was like really hard to unpack. All right, what's the next topic? And now I've got like a paragraph. I'm like, oh my goodness, and then we're going to go into this topic and that, it's like, but the theist, to some extent, they have it easy. It's like, we have a book, says what to do. There you go. Just do whatever in the book. Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, really? Which one? Which part? I love to point it out. I'm like, yeah, really? Which parts are you following? Because, depending on your theology, you're going to be following some parts and not others. So, which ones do you think matter? Well, Jesus only spoke about the 10 Commandments, so that's really the only ones that matter. Well, he did say there was another one there, oh my goodness. So you still pick and choose then. So it's not a settled matter. But then you've got people that really take their holy book seriously, some Muslims. And I asked a Muslim, I was like, well, what's the penalty for leaving the faith? He said, it's death. I was like, yeah, why is that? It's like you betrayed your nation. You're a traitor to your nation. And they killed traitors to nations. So I'm like, well, but it's a religion. It's not a nation, but I guess they view it as one. I'm like, what's the deal with not painting Muhammad or drawing Muhammad? He didn't answer that question. So, and yeah, what happened to that? We all used to do Draw Muhammad Day. And like people just stopped doing it. But it's like, why? I don't know. People got bored of it or something. Like we all did it because that guy got killed. And I can't even, I'd have to go dig up that person and, like, here's that thing and here's why we did it. And it was really important to do for a while, but then it just kind of stopped being a thing that people do. It's like, I guess I could do it, but do I want to risk my life by doing that? Am I risking my life by doing it? Possibly. But there's strength in numbers. When everyone was doing it, or a lot of people were doing it, oh, what are you going to do then? And so, yeah, there's all sorts of questions about how we think about others or think about ourselves that I just don't know that I know the answers to. And so when seriously considering my worldview, and I go, there's too many questions I don't know the answers to. And I go, well, I don't even know what my worldview is. So then how can anyone else claim to know what my worldview is if I don't know? But it's interesting. They like to do that. They like to know what yes, I know your worldview. Or like the Dr. Nitwit guy. You had this book forced on you. Oh, really? Tell me more about myself. By the way, it's not true. I didn't have any version of the Bible forced upon me. I had very positive experiences in church. I was aware of a King James only church. I think I went once, and that was it. And I was like, that's nonsense. Even as a believer, I was like, nah, that's not for me. But he assumed that he knew me better than I knew myself. I'm going to guess that you're this and that. I'm going to make probability guesses at you. And it's like, that's not how you figure out people. You just ask them and let them tell you. And he made deliberate, seems to me, mistake like, oh, well, you all believe in scientism. Nope. I don't think a single one of us does. I don't think anyone does. But I do think that we all think that science is pretty good. I don't know if it means that science answers everything, but I don't think that there's a question science can't really answer. Maybe depending on how you form the question. But also that if science includes logic, then there are very few questions that couldn't be answered by science. Again, unless it's malformed or something like that. But I could be wrong, and I'm open to being shown I'm wrong, so it's not like I'm set in stone on anything. So, my atheist worldview is in flux, open to change, open to data and information. Like, how should I do it? Should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? It's like, how do I present myself to the viewers I have? Do I show my face in every video? Do I do the icon? Do I do live? Do I do it recorded? I don't know. Why is nobody leaving comments? Don't know. They just don't. Sometimes people do, but not often. People have moved away from that in this day and age, I guess. So I need to, accept that and live with it and stop bugging people about it. Accept you as who you are. But man, I really want it to be a certain way. Well, I'm fighting an uphill battle. So all these things are thoughts tumbling throughout my mind. Maybe you'll make a video like this, and so I can explore your worldview. Maybe you've thought it out better than I have, and that will give me some grounding to do a better version at some point, instead of just rambling incoherently like I'm doing. But then again, maybe you have your own. Maybe you want to share your worldview with me if you have one, or parts of one, or but maybe it's really difficult or impossible. I don't know. And of course, if you don't want to put it in the comments, you can email me it. Or make your own video if you want to do that, or all of the above. I don't know. I'm not gonna. You decide what you want to do. All right. Well, that's it. I just wanted to kind of, yeah, that's it. I'm done now. I'm gonna mythologize my erectile dysfunction with that. Okay, cool. What the hell am I talking about? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I'll have to go back and hear this worldview. Yeah. People. Yeah, I never schedule anything, do I? Actually, there is a scheduled thing I do have for those still listening after all this. I guess I'll put it as a post. What date is it? Let's see. It is February 13th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will not be on my channel. It will be on the channel called The Deconversionist. So I'll have to link to their channel. I have no idea what we're going to be doing, but I'm going to be there. And so that will be a thing that I do. And yeah, so cool. Look forward to that. Until next time, be skeptical and stay skeptical after next time. Thanks for listening. Let me know your worldview or whatever you want to say in the comments below. Maybe we could talk about like the hypothetical scenario of like we're able to grow humans without the need of humans. And I don't know.